Welcome everyone back to the Do You Know Ball podcast. I am Matt DeGennaro. I am joined here with Zachary Papenberg. Zach, say hi to the lovely people.
What's going on, everybody?
Yes, and you are back. Do You Know Ball episode 61. We got some fun topics for you guys today. We plan on this to be a little bit of a shorter pod. We always say that and it never ends up being true. So we're gonna see. But for today, we're gonna discuss the NBA free agency so far. We're gonna go over only the big moves, not the little minute and smaller ones. We're gonna talk about the Yankees and their struggles, and I'm gonna get into it. We're going to talk about the MLB All-Star lineups. They were just announced, the starters. We're going to talk about snubs, any surprises, stuff like that. And then lastly, we're going to glaze Clayton Kershaw for a little bit because he just reached 3,000 career strikeouts. Absolutely insane. Arguably one of, if not the best pitcher of all time. We'll get into that when it comes to that segment. So without further ado, before we start, we'll start with the NBA. Zach, do you want to say anything to the lovely people out there?
Yeah, I could just jump straight into the first topic if you want. I could run
Oh,
through it. Or do
well,
you want to kick it off? It's okay.
but before we start, I do want
Oh,
you guys to realize that we are down a familiar face as per
we
usual.
are. We are down a
Yes.
familiar face.
Um, Once again, we are looking for new applicants. So if you want the job here at the Do You Know Ball podcast, feel free to apply. Comment down below your age and your Zoom passwords and usernames or whatever, and then we can get you on every now and then. That spot seems to be open every now and then. So unfortunately, our third is you know here and there at times, but he likes to travel. He's a traveling man, right, Zach?
Yeah, he should be back for 62, hopefully, but we'll see. We'll
I
see
wouldn't
what's going
count on
on.
it. Yeah. But anyway, Zach, if you want to start, go for it. You can say your
Sure.
opinions on some of these moves, and then I'll say my opinion on some of these moves. Feel
Sure.
free.
So obviously the NBA free agency has been running rampant and a lot of moves have been made over the course of this past week. Just to kick it off, the first move that was glaring to us was Ayton to the Lakers. DeAndre Ayton has I really didn't like when the Suns moved him to Portland because I felt like they just downgraded and he was doing really well and they kind of just nixed him for no reason, for no good reason. And then he kind of had a down year in Portland and now he's with the Lakers, and the Lakers finally got their center. I think he has a good chance to really rebound this year and play a significant role on the Lakers because they're the new look Lakers right now. With Luka just getting him from last year and
Hmm.
seeing how their team's going to revolve around him now because LeBron's only got however long he's got in the league, and who knows? I've been hearing some rumors that he could potentially be moved. I don't know how true they are, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on with that. Then just moving straight into the Bucks, confusion immediately with everything that the Bucks have been doing. So for starters, they dropped Dame to the waivers, which was kind of puzzling to me, and they also signed Miles Turner, which if you put the two together, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because why would you bring Miles Turner on and then just drop Dame, regardless of the injury or not? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it's kind of confusing too. Like, what are they going to do with Giannis? Is Giannis going to be a Buck next year, or are they going to actually, think about moving him now that, Dame's not a part of the team and, they're kind of going in a different direction. They lost a lot of people. Brooke Lopez is no longer on the team. I don't believe Chris Middleton's on the team anymore.
No,
I
he's
could
been
be,
gone.
yeah. So there are a lot of moves. They don't look the same, and it's just kind of confusing to me why they would drop Dame and sign Miles Turner. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. Then for like the big winners of the offseason, it's been a whole lot of Rockets, Nuggets, and Hawks. They've done a very terrific job this offseason and bringing in new talent, and the Nuggets are honestly one of my favorites out of these three because they
Yeah.
really expanded on the depth and really, grew out their team. So let's just get into that real quick. The Rockets, obviously they've done quite a bit this offseason, especially with getting Kevin Durant, trading for him. They got Clint Capella. They re-signed Steven Adams. They re-signed Fred VanVleet. and they got Dorian Finney-Smith as well. So, a lot of good pieces to add to their team. Obviously, Kevin Durant is the main piece. They're going to be dirty next year. I think they have a really good chance to be in the running for the top seed. I feel like they're going to compete and could really have a chance to make it far once they get to the playoffs as well. Then just moving on to the Nuggets. Like I said, really good job in depth signings. They traded away MPJ along with some future first rounder, I believe, to the Nets for Cam Johnson. I really like that move because Cam Johnson, I think, with the right coaching and the right team, could really be more of a superstar than he already is. He was really good. I think he was pretty good with the Nets. I I know you just made that face, Deej. Superstar shouldn't be thrown around. That's my fault.
Superstars. It's quite the
My
word
fault. I
there.
just think he could be really good with the Nuggets and the way they play. And he was pretty good with the Nets too. I think he averaged around like 15 points or so, and he was good for the time being that he was on the Nets. But now he's with the Nuggets, and I think he could do really good there. They also got Bruce Brown, they also got Valanciunas, and they got Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. So great signings. Bruce Brown, obviously, he was there with them when they won the championship. I thought he was going to come back because in the parade he said that he was going to run it back, but apparently that wasn't the case, at least for not the next season. But he's back with the team now, and he's a really good defensive guy, really good role player to have on the team. Tim Hardaway, really great 3-and-D guy to come off the bench. Um, Jonas Valanciunas is going to be really good off the bench as well. Backup center. They just look really good. They look really good. Cam Johnson's probably going to be slotted into that starting lineup. So
Hmm.
they look really good. And then the last team is obviously the Hawks. They've been really busy. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis. They got Alexander Walker. They got Luke Kennard. It's a lot of depth moves that they really made. But they're really looking pretty solid with the young core that they already have, right? And adding KP to that starting lineup, as long as he stays healthy, could be a lethal 1-2 combo with him and Trey. So again, really exciting for them as well. And then obviously the last bit of news on our list is Knicks. The Knicks got Mike Brown as their head coach. Really solid head coach. I really was confused when Sacramento let him go because it was really honestly for no reason. And it sucks for him, but now he's in New York, and New York's actually got a really solid coach now on their hands. I think he was one of the names I mentioned, probably him and a few others that I mentioned.
Taylor Jenkins, I feel like you
Yep,
mentioned as well.
Taylor
Yeah.
Jenkins. I think Mike Malone too. I mentioned
Yeah.
him, but Mike Brown is a great coach, and I can't wait to see what he does with this Knicks team and how much energy he brings to this Knicks team. Because who knows, maybe it was just a change in the head coach spot that changes a lot for them. Maybe they start gelling more than they already do, and maybe they go out and get a few more pieces and add them to the team. So I think that was a really solid move from the Knicks. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's just a really quick run through of everything big that happened in the NBA. Matt, I'll give it back to you if you want to
Yeah.
voice your opinion on these
Yeah.
moves.
I'll go down the list again and I'll try and make it quick because I think you brought up a lot of great points. First off, let's talk about Ayton to the Lakers. First off, I don't know if anyone expected DeAndre Ayton to get bought out. But the Lakers, of course, get blessed. Rob Pelinka gets blessed as per usual. He lucks into these type of things. They got Luka Doncic for seemingly almost nothing. I don't want to say Anthony Davis is nothing, but they got Luka Doncic out of thin air. They got gifted the next franchise guy once LeBron is done and retired from the game of basketball. And then they now potentially have their center for the future in DeAndre Ayton. He is from the same draft class as Luka Doncic, for those that don't know. So they are similar in the same age. I guess what, 25, 26, around that. Ayton, you look at his stats, and yeah, I think he's going to make an immediate impact for the Lakers, and I think he's going to be a really solid guy for them, considering that they have really needed center help for a while, ever since trading Anthony Davis. However, there's some things that the stat sheet doesn't really show with DeAndre Ayton. There's a lot of times where on the court he's very lazy and he doesn't really put his full effort to get rebounds or just, full intensity. So that could be a question there. And you wonder if that's like a great pairing with Luka Doncic because the Mavericks traded Luka for that reason. They felt that he didn't have that intensity and he didn't really, put that care into the game as much. So I'm interested to see how that really meshes for the Lakers and if they can keep Ayton long term. I believe the deal was a 2-year deal. I don't know the money situation, but I think this is good for the Los Angeles Lakers. I think hopefully Ayton, can really fix himself after having, not the greatest of years in Portland. And yeah, touching on what you said with the Suns and DeAndre Ayton as well, I believe that was en route with the Bradley Beal trade, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I don't agree with it. I've said it many times that I think the KD trade was fine. Like you trade McCall and Cam Johnson plus picks for Kevin Durant. But I think where it all really went south was when you traded Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton for Bradley Beal. And that really just set the franchise back. So I think Ayton to the Lakers is good for them, obviously. I think he was the best available guy at the time. So good for Lakers. And is this really going to make them a threat to win? I don't think so. I mean, if they don't make it past the first round, I genuinely won't be surprised. That's not me hating. I just don't think they really have anything else within them. I don't know about like LeBron, Luca, Reeves, and then Hachimura. Like I don't know if they really have the depth or the talent to make it farther than the first round, maybe second round, but I don't think it's like a deadly move. And now the big one is Damian Lillard. I was at work. I genuinely could not believe it. It was just like this was my reaction. Like I was like, wow. It was so out of nowhere, especially like right after they signed Miles Turner. So pretty much for those that are unaware, Damian Lillard is suffering from an Achilles injury and he has to rehab. So he wasn't going to be playing this year anyway. And the Bucks pretty much thought that it would be more useful for him to be off the team, open up a roster spot, and clear some money. They restructured his contract in some way. I don't know how the logistics work, but they pretty much stretched his contract over like 5 years, I want to say. So it saves them money and it allowed them to get Miles Turner. They did just lose Brooke Lopez, and Miles Turner is honestly a great fit. Honestly, you could say perfect, fantastic even. Fantastic. It's a fantastic fit next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. He can shoot, he plays defense. Miles Turner is a center that every team in the league should covet. And it's so crazy to me that it's not even that Milwaukee of all teams got Miles Turner. It's crazy to me that Miles Turner left Indiana. Obviously, he got a massive, I don't want to say massive, he got a $4 million pay increase. I think Indiana was offering 22 million. He got 26 from Milwaukee. So yeah, he got a pay increase. But considering Miles Turner was always in trade rumors and trade discussions, and he finally made the NBA Finals with the Pacers, and now after that, all of a sudden he's just gone. I don't know, like I Miles Turner, I thought was gonna for sure be a Pacer for life, especially after just making the finals and looking like they were gonna have a super bright future. So I'm very surprised by this move, and I don't even know if Giannis is going to be a Milwaukee Buck for the long term. So I don't know. I'm not gonna bash Miles Turner. I think he's a great player. He's a great guy. One of my favorite players in the league, honestly. He's a great guy. He's got great personality. He makes great off the court content. I just think it was a very surprising move. And I think if Giannis stays and everything else goes right, I think the Bucks could make some noise. I don't see them as like top dogs in the East anymore. I think that time has passed, and I do still think they should trade Giannis. And that window might be closed because the Rockets got Kevin Durant, and I've been saying the Rockets are Giannis's best destination. But maybe the Rockets get crazy and they offer a lot more young assets for Giannis, and they pair him up with Kevin Durant. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not a GM here. And yeah, the Dame thing is still mind-boggling to me. I think the rumored teams are like maybe Warriors, Miami Heat. I could totally see him doing. I don't know any other teams that would really be totally in on Damian Lillard. I think a lot of teams would. It's just now Dame has the power to choose the team he wants to go to. So it was rumored he wants to go to Miami all along. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Miami and Miami finesses a Bradley Beal thing with the Suns, and they have Dame and Bradley Beal with Hero and Adebayo. I think maybe that could make some noise, especially with how weak the East is. And then I'll try and speed this up. I'm yapping a little bit. Rockets, yes, they got Dorian Finney-Smith. They stole him from the Lakers. Steven Adams, they re-signed. Clint Capella, they brought back from back in the day. And obviously you have Kevin Durant. They re-signed Fred VanVleet. Great offseason for the Rockets. Number 2 seed. Now you can really rival with OKC. And if they are the number 1 seed next season, I wouldn't be surprised. It all comes down to health. It comes down to how well the young guys can progress. Sangoon could be on the move potentially, I've been hearing rumors about, because they did bring in Steven Adams and Clint Capella. That's definitely something to monitor. Maybe Reed Shepard gets a lot more minutes this year. You still have Tariq, and like that team is just so good. And Ime Udoka, hands down, one of the best coaches in the league. The Denver Nuggets, they acquired Cam Johnson. As everyone knows, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan. My take for the Nuggets, I think this is a great move for both teams personally. I would much rather have Cam Johnson than MPJ if I am the Nuggets, only because I think Cam Johnson fits the mold a little better. I think MPJ is a little bit too ball dominant, and I think that Cam Johnson's just kind of more of a smarter basketball player, and he's a lot cheaper too. And I think that's the biggest reason why the Nuggets did this trade was because he's so damn cheap compared to MPJ. So I think this is a great move for the Nuggets. And for the Brooklyn Nets, I think this is totally fine too. I think Cam Johnson had to be traded to, further enhance the rebuild. And they got a 2032 first round pick. That is gold because I doubt the Nuggets are still going to be as dominant or as good in 2032. That is literally like how many years ago? That's like 7 years away. That's insane. Is Jokic still going to be dominant in 7 years? Like, I don't know. I doubt it. So that's a gamble the Nets are going to take with that. They brought Bruce Brown back on the minimum. Absolutely love it. He already won a championship with them. Tim Hardaway Jr., as Zach said, a 3-and-D guy. Absolutely love it as well. Surrounding Jokic with shooters. And then Valanciunas. That is arguably probably the best backup center that they've had in the Jokic era. I seen some rumors. I'm seeing rumors that Valanciunas might go to might go to Greece and just might leave the NBA. And if that's the case, the Nuggets have their full mid-level exception, and that's like 14 million, I want to say, that they can offer to another backup center. So if he leaves, whatever, they have a boatload of money they can offer to another person. So Nuggets back to being serious contenders, in my opinion. The Hawks, I'll make it quick. Kristaps Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Luke Kennard. They're surrounding Trey with defense, surrounding Trey with shooters as well. Absolutely love it. I think they got Newell as well, Asa Newell from the NBA draft. I think he's going to be a great prospect. Want the Nets to get him. He's a good prospect. Hopefully he pans out. And like I said, I think the Hawks could make a decent run in the NBA playoffs this upcoming season. And then last but not least, the Knicks got Mike Brown to replace Tom Thibodeau. I think Mike Brown is better than what people give him credit for. I've been seeing a lot of slander for Mike Brown on the timeline. I think he's a good coach. He's a 2-time coach of the year. The only weird thing is that they fired Tibbs for Mike Brown. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm not a Knicks fan, so I could care less. I think Tibbs was a good coach for that team. I know the players really liked him, and they were playing well. They made the conference finals. They were a couple of games away from the NBA finals, and I think Tibbs just had to make a couple of changes to his philosophies, and I think they would have been fine. But hopefully, for Knicks fans, for Knicks' sake, Mike Brown really gets them over the hump and maybe makes the NBA Finals with how open the Eastern Conference is. But with that being said, I think I and you as well as Zach have gone into more than enough depth with this NBA free agency. Hopefully, if you guys have anything we missed, feel free to comment down below, and in the next pod we'll cover that news. Because for all we know, Damian Lillard will probably be on an NBA team by the next pod. Bradley Beal could get bought out or could get traded. That's crazy to say that Bradley Beal might be on a different team considering how atrocious his contract is. So hopefully we got more NBA news, but I think now we can kind of dive into the MLB topics, right, Zach?
We can indeed, and this is a fun one to kick it off. But I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh, that's right. This is me.
This
Wow.
is you.
I
This
need
is
I don't,
you.
I don't even have a water. Man, I've been talking so much. Okay. So So we talked about, the NBA offseason. Now let's get into some baseball. Let's talk about the New York Yankees and how piss poor they have been during their June swoon. It is now July 5th, as we're recording this, and the June swoon has carried into July a little bit. It's only been 5 days, so I'll kind of, I don't want to say more so stats. I'm just gonna go speak from the heart as a Yankee fan, as a sad Yankee fan as always, because no one has it worse, right? Yankee fans have the hardest life in the MLB, right? Zach, you can agree.
Sure.
Sure,
Sure.
you don't. I fight me on that. Yankee fans have it worse. They have it worse than every other team.
Yeah.
You know
27. Really bad. Have it a lot worse. A lot
that
worse
is
than
true.
everybody
We do have
in
27
the league.
rings. We do have 27 rings. We do have the most in MLB history, but no one has it worse than us, dude. Because we shouldn't be having June swoons. Let me give some context, right? So the Yankees were absolutely dominating. the AL East for the entire season. And now the June swoon, the yearly June swoon, they went from 42 and 25 to 48 and 40 on the year. That is absolutely insane. I don't want to do math. Let's do some quick math actually. I lied. That is that is a 6 and 15 stretch. That is 6 and 15. They have lost 15 out of their last 21 games. That is that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And am I surprised? No, because anytime it becomes June, the Yankees just forget how to play baseball. With that being said, the Blue Jays just swept the Yankees for the first time in franchise history in Toronto in a 4 game series. Zach was there,
I
by
was
the
there.
way.
I was there for game one, and I'll let you continue because
Hmm.
I have my own
Yeah.
opinions on what's kind of been going on with the Yankees right now.
Hmm.
And I kind of witnessed it Monday night, so and I
Hmm.
witnessed it today as well. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so Zach was there and he got to witness the downfall of the Yankees in person. And the Blue Jays swept the Yankees, and now the Blue Jays are in first place in the AL East. And that is just insane. So insane to say that I'm good for the Blue Jays. I'm not gonna clown you guys. The Yankees absolutely suck. Vladdy, have him in fantasy, love him. I've had him. This is the second time I've ever had him in fantasy. So I'm cheering for him. But now let's talk to the reasons why the June swoon might be in full effect, right? Uh, like like there's so much I could say, but like I have to control myself. All right, we'll get quick over with the bullpen. The bullpen has been atrocious, flat out. Uh, Obviously we know the ups and downs of Devin Williams the entire season. It's such a shame because the closer position has been such a question mark for the Yankees for the past couple of years, right? You have Aroldis Chapman, who you can never really fully rely on. You had Clay Holmes, who looked like the next coming of Mariano Rivera until he wasn't, and now you trade for Devin Williams, who was one of, if not the best closer in baseball, like hoping that you can finally get that next stud closer ever since Mariano Rivera. And he has just been not himself ever since being a Yankee. And now you look to now rely on Luke Weaver. Maybe you could rely on Luke Weaver because Devin Williams is not great. And Luke Weaver hasn't even been good. Ever since he's been back from injury or from the IL, Luke Weaver has just not been good. And when you cannot rely on those two guys, you have to rely on Mark Leiter Jr., you have to rely on Ian Hamilton, you have to rely on Loizaga. And right now, you shouldn't be relying on those guys because they are just not doing good either. The entire Yankee bullpen as a whole has been a mess. And what was once one of their strongest assets, and arguably had one of, if not the best bullpen in all of baseball, or top five maybe going into the year, is now arguably their not arguably is probably their biggest weakness right now. You just cannot rely on them. And you can't have your starters going so deep into the game where they break their arm. And I do want to talk about the starters now. I'll go level to level. Max Fried has been absolutely phenomenal this year. He didn't have a good game against the Blue Jays, whatever. He's human. I think that was like his second or third truly bad game of the year. But he has been absolutely phenomenal. But you cannot rely on Max Fried every game. Rodon has been great this year. I'm surprised I'm saying that. I can't complain about Carlos Rodon. Clark Schmidt, I don't know what he did. I don't know what the injury report is, but he's pretty much done for the year. Like, if not, he's done for a good amount. So you can't rely on Clark Schmidt anymore. You had to bring back Marcus Stroman today, who just played the Mets, and he didn't. He's not the reason they lost, but I don't have to want to rely on Marcus Stroman. It's just not a great situation. And then Will Warren, got lit up in Toronto. It gave up what 7, 8 runs in the first inning. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So you can't rely on the pitchers for the most part. And now let's get to the hitting lineup, right? Paul Goldschmidt is now officially Paul Oldschmidt. Like he was art like Zach's last. It's the truth. I've been waiting to say that and have a legitimate reason in saying it. And he's Paul Oldschmidt now, and it sucks because this man was so good to start the year, and now it's like his age is finally catching up to him, and It's so depressing, dude. And then you have Boone's questionable lineups where JC Escara's playing and Oswald Peraza's playing. Like, what are we doing? Just shoot me in the face. If that's the lineup you're gonna be throwing out, shoot me in the face. I'd rather that than watch those lineups. And then don't get me started on the Italian stallion himself, Anthony Volpe. This could be a whole 40-minute pod in its own, just talking and ranting about Anthony Volpe. But I have to keep it PG. I have to keep it somewhat professional and somewhat short because we do have two other lineups. We do have two other segments to talk about tonight, and what we said was going to be a short pod. But Anthony Volpe, it really upsets me that he has not lived up to this hype. And these people were putting Derek Jeter expectations to him, and no one was ever going to be Derek Jeter. These fans were setting him up. The front office was setting him up for failure since day one. If they were comparing him to Derek Jeter, but in our defense, this man, it's not just he was a top prospect in the Yankees farm system. He was a top prospect in all of baseball. I think he was as high as number 5 in all of MLB's pipeline prospects. Like he was number 5. So he was good for a reason and he was hyped up for a reason. And now looking back on it, like his season batting average, I know batting average is not everything. It's lower than his career average. It just hasn't been good. Volpe's been praised for his speed. He doesn't steal anymore. I don't know what the problem is. He's making errors in the field that he normally would make, or that he would like he would normally make the play, and he won a Gold Glove his rookie year. It's just Volpe's just like regressing, and he's 24 or 25 years old. This should not be the case. And on top of it, as well, keep in mind they passed on guys like Corey Seager. They passed on, most notably, Corey Seager. I'm not going to list every name, but the generational shortstop free agency draft class, they passed on everyone because they had Anthony Volpe coming up. So they put all their eggs into Anthony Volpe, and unfortunately, he's just rotten. He's a rotten egg, and it sucks. And they never sit him. He plays every day, and it's just frustrating because it's like, why does he get this long leash and he gets all the chances in the world, but then guys like Jason Dominguez get they get benched after having tremendous performances. And same for like Cody Bellinger too. I feel like that happens a lot with Bellinger. Dominguez and Bellinger, they get hot, Boone benches them. And it makes me question Aaron Boone as a whole. And I'll now go into Aaron Boone. A lot of boneheaded decisions have been made. I think it's time for a change. I've never been fully on the Aaron Boone fire board train, whatever you want to call it. But I think now I am. I think the June swoon, like this cannot be a coincidence, man. It cannot be a coincidence. Aaron Boone has made a lot of boneheaded decisions. The lineups are not great. And, I do think that they should move on from him this offseason. Will they? They're not going to move on from him. They're not. But I think they should move on from Aaron Boone. Who they get to replace him, I don't care. Someone better. Now, I feel like there's a lot more I could talk about, but I really do want to keep this, general and very easy to follow. I feel like I've been doing somewhat of a good job. So I'll move on to the last part of this where, they have no reliable hitters and they let arguably one of their most reliable hitters in the postseason, Gleyber Torres, walk for nothing. And I'm glad I can end on Gleyber Torres because he's an all-star starter now, and we're going to get into that next segment. It's not the problem that Brian Cashman let him walk. It's the problem that they let Gleyber Torres walk without replacing him. They went into the season having to rely on Jazz Chisholm, who is a natural second baseman, putting him at third base when he's made plenty of errors at third. He's never played a professional game at third up until the Yankees put him there. Like what are we doing? You want Oswald Peraza to be at third base every day instead of signing Gleyber back? Like what are we doing? It just made zero sense to me considering that Gleyber came up clutch and he was ever since they moved him to the leadoff spot was tremendous for the Yankees. And he was one of their best hitters in the postseason. And it boggled my mind that they have some vendetta against him, that they were literally Cashman was willing to have a black hole at third base. He was willing to have that instead of Gleyber Torres back in pinstripes. That's what boggles my mind. And now we have to go into the trade deadline and hope that they make a move. I guarantee you they're going to trade for some random reliever that I've never heard of. He's going to turn into a stud, but that's not going to help the offense because the offense, like this team, man, there's just so much. You have Eugenio Suarez rumors swirling around. They're not going to get him. They have Luis Rengifo rumors, Yon Moncada. Like who else is even rumored? Nolan Arenado is always rumored, but they're not going to get him. I don't even know. I don't know what they could do. Like thinking realistically from a Brian Cashman perspective, I don't know what the Yankees can do. And it's super like frustrating because it happens year after year after year. And I don't want to have to rely on the offseason and be like, "Oh, we're going to get Kyle Tucker." Like I don't want to have to do that, and I'm tired of it. And I've been telling Zach, I'm at the point where I genuinely care more about the Brooklyn Nets. And that should not happen. The Nets undoubtedly will have the worst record in the NBA next year. I should not care about the worst team in the NBA more than the New York Yankees. That is a problem. I am more invested in the Nets, who just had arguably one of the worst drafts. That's exaggerated. I don't think they had that bad of a draft, but I'm a Nets fan, so I'm biased. It's crazy. Like I don't know. I'm flabbergasted. It spells out doom. It's all doom, Zach.
It definitely does.
Cashman is Doctor Doom. It spells out doomsday. I just don't know what to do. I don't. And like I feel like I've never been more non-interested in a Yankees team before. And I just like I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
dude.
So I'll go into a little bit of my spiel about the Yankees, and then we'll move on to the All-Star segment. So just some things that I've observed in this short amount of time, because let's be real, I'm a Mets fan. I don't really pay attention to the Yankees on a daily basis unless I'm at the game or the Mets or are playing the Yankees. So just before I get into that, though, I do want to mention something about Devin Williams and compare him a little bit to Edwin Diaz in the beginning. Because if you remember, I hated Edwin Diaz in the beginning. I
Yeah.
absolutely could not stand Edwin Diaz. He was terrible. He gave up home runs, and every time he did put his little finger up in the air, I wanted to literally kill him because every time he did this, the game was over. So he had his woes in the beginning, and I feel like a lot of it is due to the fact that regardless, New York is a tough place to play, especially at Yankee Stadium. So I feel like more so it's going to take some time for him to get adjusted. Granted, we're already about halfway through this season, but it may take longer than, you know, half a season for him to get acclimated and really go back to being Devin Williams again. So you know, you just hope that he eventually snaps out of it, comes back to his senses, and actually turns back into one of the best closers in baseball. But besides that, just a few things that I've observed over the past couple of days. Like you mentioned, I feel like, along with the issues you said, the bullpen was one of the most glaring things to me because they were up in that game on Monday night. And then all of a sudden, the later the innings got, the Blue Jays just kept coming back and coming back, and then the Blue Jays tied it, and then they take the lead, and it it just like crumbled before their eyes. Speaking of today's game, um, it blew up, and you know what? I as a Mets fan, I don't expect anything like that from Jeff McNeil. Right? I never expect him to go up to the plate and hit a home run. Every time he goes up to the plate and does hit a home run, it's a shock to me because he's not a power bat. But for him to do what he did and hit the home run, give the Mets the lead, and then Reed Garrett with six terrific outs, six terrific outs that needed to be got, and he's been struggling so much, Reed Garrett, and he just came through today. But besides that, we're not talking about the Mets. We're talking about the Yankees. The bullpen just gave it up. And you know what? Another thing that's an issue that you said is Jazz. Jazz can't play third base. He lucked out on a play today. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you saw a replay of it, but Ronnie Mauricio was running to
Oh,
second
I
base,
did see that. Of course I
and
saw that.
it
Yeah.
was a double play turn, but Jazz airmailed the throw, and he got lucky because for some whatever reason, Mauricio was safe, 100% safe, but he got up and thought the ball was in the outfield, so he started running the third. Is what it is. But the point with that, me saying that is Jazz is not the third baseman, and he can't play that position really that well. He needs to go back to where he was at second base. And so what I'm trying to say is a top priority for the Yankees this deadline should be a third baseman because you cannot have him continue to do that, especially in clutch scenarios. Because what's going to happen when it comes playoff time? And you're going to need him to make that play, and he bobbles it in playoff time. Any error you make is a very costly one. So hopefully they figured out with the deadline. You guys figured out at the deadline. I know I want the Mets to do a lot of moves actually, but more so pitching wise as well. So we'll see what happens with them. Hopefully they bounce back. Blue Jays are now in first, which is a shocker to me because I was not aware really how good the Blue Jays were doing as of late because they got off to a rough start and nobody really expected the Blue Jays to do anything this year. Um there was talks about trading Vlad before he got extended and then potentially moving Bo, and then all of a sudden you're in a playoff spot, you're in a wild card spot, and then as it got closer to the deadline right now you're in the first place spot. How long that will last, I don't know. But just for the sake of time, I'll end it there and I'll move straight on to the All-Star segment. So obviously the All-Star starters have been named for both the NL and the AL. Deej, I'm gonna let you introduce that, but before you do, I want to just talk about an All-Star snub before we get into
Yeah,
the
go
full
for it.
lineups. I relatively was fine with every pick, every selection for starters, um, all that kind of jazz. I was fine with it. The only thing I was upset with was that Pete Alonso wasn't named an All-Star starter and Freddie Freeman was. Now, granted, I know Freddie Freeman to many people is, and to me, is in my eyes better than Pete Alonso. But if there was going to be a year where Pete Alonso should have been an all-star starter, it should have been this year. We've never seen this version of Pete Alonso, not at least recently, where he's not only hitting for power, but he's hitting for average as well. He's never really had his average at a consistent almost 300. It's at like 290, 289, high up there. But he's never had that before. So that was kind of striking to me. And then when I saw this tweet that I'm gonna share with you guys, it just
Hmm.
doesn't make any sense. So I'm just gonna put it straight out there. Freddie Freeman's only beating Pete Alonso in two categories. That is batting average and I believe OBP. That's it. And it's not by a lot. It's not by a dramatic length. It's by a little margin. So I'll just quickly read off the stats. For WAR, Freddie Freeman 1.9, Pete Alonso 2.9. I'm gonna skip over the games played and plate appearances because no one really cares too much about that. It's just a matter if you're healthy or not. Hits, Alonso 93, Freeman 84. And obviously, a lot of this has changed from what I'm reading because the more games they play, the more chances they'll get for RBIs, runs, home runs, etc. Um, Home runs. See, now this is where it starts to get a little frustrating. 18 home runs for Pete Alonso, 10 home runs for Freddie Freeman. Then RBIs. Alonso, I believe, has 68 now, or something around there, close to 70 RBIs, where Freddie Freeman only has 43. I think he's almost at 50 at the moment now. Um, then of course you get to two stats that Freeman beats him in. That's batting average and OBP. And batting average, Freeman has a 308 batting average to Alonso's, like I said, 291. And then OBP, Freeman has 381 OBP, and Alonso has a 380 OBP. The rest, slugging percentage, 541 for Alonso, 502 for Freeman. OPS 921 for Alonso, 882 for Freeman, and then lastly OPS plus 163 for Alonso to Freeman's 147. So, like I said, just really frustrating to me. If there was a year that he deserved it, it was this year, 100%. I'm more than happy that Lindor got selected for
Me
the
too.
All-Star starter because I feel like it's just been a long time coming for him. He's well deserved. He's poured his heart and soul into the
Hooray!
Mets the past couple of years, and he's going to continue to do that for the
Golden
foreseeable future.
Door.
Yeah, good for him. But I really
I
hate
don't
for
actually care. I was being sarcastic, but
sure, but you know what? Good for Lindor, but yeah, I'm just really pissed off that of all years to not name Pete Alonso an All-Star starter, this was the year, and it's 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 rough for him because he would have been the first Mets first baseman to start an All-Star game since Keith Hernandez in 1986 when we actually won a World Series. So, yeah. So
whoa.
again,
Whoa.
really frustrating for me to not see Pete start, but regardless, all the selections that were made for all the starters, no complaints really here. Just that one. But Deej, why don't you, without further ado, read off the AL and NL starters for the
Yeah,
All-Star game?
sure. I was trying to do a stat comparison, so I'll give my snubs and what I feel after I
Okay.
do this. But anyway, for the National League, your starting lineup: Will Smith will be at catcher, Freddie Freeman will be at first base, Ketel Marte will be at second base, Francisco Lindor will be at shortstop, Manny Machado will be at third base, Ronald Acuna Jr. will be in the outfield, Kyle Tucker will be in the outfield, Pete Crow Armstrong will be in the outfield, and Shohei Ohtani will be at DH. That's for the National League. Let's go to the American League. At catcher, Cal Raleigh. At first base, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. At second base, Gleyber Torres. At shortstop, Jacob Wilson. At third base, Jose Ramirez. In the outfield, Aaron Judge, Riley Green, Javier Baez. And at DH, Ryan O'Hearn. So that's the full list of starters. I don't think we know the reserves. I believe we do not. I think if we knew, we would have put him on the dock. But right now,
Yeah.
I'll go into my snubs a little bit. This is my first time actually like seeing the full list of teams. I had no idea Acuna was an all-star starter. This is the first time I'm learning about it. So to see that, I wanted to compare his stats to guys like James Wood and Corbin Carroll because they have had tremendous years. And I'm not saying Acuna doesn't deserve it. I have him in fantasy, so I'm going to glaze him. But he hasn't played as many games because he started the season hurt. And I wanted to compare all those stats. So I definitely think a guy like James Wood and Corbin Carroll were definitely snubbed. Who you want to put them in place of, whether it's Acuna or Tucker, I think Pete Crow deserves his spot. We'll keep him there. That's up to debate. But I do want to draw some attention to definitely James Wood and definitely Corbin Carroll. I think they 100% got snubbed. They will definitely be all stars though. But starting lineup, I think you can definitely make a case for them to be in the starting lineup. Will Smith, I think does. I mean, I don't. Is another? I'm stuttering. There's no other National League catcher. Let's be real, I guess. Freddie Freeman, Zach had his whole Pete Alonso debate. It's definitely a toss up. I do think if there was a year for Pete to start the All Star game, it would be this year. So it kind of sucks for Mets fans. Ketel Marte, hands down, absolutely deserves it. Best second baseman in baseball. We'll just move on. Francisco Lindor, first All Star game as a Met. It's kind of funny. I was honestly hoping for memes he wasn't an All Star just so I could continue the joke, but I can't anymore. So it is what it is. But yeah, no, he deserves it as well. So good for him. Manny Machado, yeah, he deserves it as well. I think a lot of people were trying to make a case for a Eugenio Suarez, and if you want to say Eugenio Suarez over Manny Machado, I'm not gonna clown you for that because I think I would have to truthfully look at the stats side by side and give you my full opinion, but. I think either one is fine. I think Manny Machado is a totally fine selection. Should have been a Yankee. And then there's Shohei Ohtani. Now we'll go to the AL. Cal Raleigh, don't even need to speak. Yes, absolutely. Um, Honestly, rivaling Aaron Judge. I think he hit 2 home runs today, uh, which we had that whole debate, and a lot of people had comments for us saying that some we were wrong or we were baiting Johnny to saying certain things, which I love to bait Johnny, but in that segment, I swear I was not I was not trying to bait Johnny at all. Is that, can you attest to that?
Yeah, no, it's the whole Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge situation is just it's fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie. I can't no one in God's green
Yeah.
earth could have probably pinned Cal Raleigh to have the season he's having right now.
Hmm.
Nobody. I don't even think Mariners fans would have told you
Hmm.
that, oh, Cal Raleigh just got extended. He's gonna have a monster year.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a shock that he's actually going hand in hand with Judge right now. Especially in terms of home run. I mean, like the two of them are at a ridiculous point for the halfway point of the year, and it's not. We're not even at the halfway point. We still got like a week left. We still got a good amount of baseball, good amount of time for them to tack on their last couple home runs before the All-Star break.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
good for Cal Raleigh. Really,
Hmm.
really good for him. He's well deserved for this All-Star start.
Absolutely well deserved. There's no debate there. Vladdy, yeah, honestly, if this was a couple weeks ago, I would make a debate for Paul Goldschmidt, but now he's Paul Goldschmidt. Which I think, funny enough, I think Goldschmidt honestly still might be an all-star this season. I mean, what other first baseman in the AL is there? I mean, Aranda on the Rays, Torkelson. If Goldschmidt is still an all-star, I wouldn't be surprised, but recently he hasn't been great. So Vladdy, I think definitely, I think Vladdy's good. You can make the case for Aranda if you really want to, be first base. I don't know the stats hand in hand. I think he honestly might have better stats than Vladdy, but I think Vladdy's fine. I mean, just the name itself, and he's got a whole country backing him up, so that's why he is the all-star as well. Gleyber Torres, yeah, second base is a very weak position in the entire league. I think the only other really up for debate in the AL this year was maybe Jackson Holiday, and if I think Glaber's having a much better year than Jackson Holiday. And once again, good job, Brian Cashman. You let Gleyber Torres go. I don't think Gleyber Torres would have been a big addition to the Yankees, but like I don't think it would have been the saving grace, but it definitely would be better than what they currently have trotting out there. So there you go. Gleyber Torres, good for him. Jacob Wilson. It's gonna be a little bit of a hot take. I've been seeing people say, a lot of people don't think he deserves it. And yeah, he's batting like 350 maybe. And I think that's cool. And I think that's where the fan voting typically goes a lot of the times, is like the young, fun players that are up and coming, like Pete Crow Armstrong, which I think he 100% deserves a spot. Don't get me wrong, but like I think the hype is definitely there with him. And a lot of people still think it should be Bobby Witt. I'm not going to complain either. I don't have the stats totally up in front of me, but I think the only thing Wilson really has over him is just the batting average. And I mean, look, good for the A's. Wilson will probably win Rookie of the Year unless there's someone else I'm just totally dismissing. It'll be Jacob Wilson. So, whatever. Fun for A's fans. Jose Ramirez, yeah, next. I don't care. Aaron Judge, yeah, next. Who cares? Riley Green and Javier Baez. I don't know Riley Green's stats off the top of my head. He's having a great year. Riley Green, one of the most underrated players in baseball, if not the most underrated person. He doesn't get enough love. I don't know why. Riley Green is just so good, and I'm glad that he's starting the All-Star game, whether he deserves it or not. Ryan O'Hearn at DH, yeah, monster year. I mean, Zach made a face. I mean, he's having a good year for a DH. I don't know any.
I really wasn't aware of his year. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, the
That's
Orioles
why
have been bad.
I just literally saw that name and I'm like, that's kind of odd that
Yeah,
he's the DH. But if he's having a great year, then I don't know his stats like that, so I can't
yeah.
really make
Honestly,
an
he will
opinion on that.
probably he'll probably get traded at the deadline to a contender. I think the Orioles can get something good for him. My biggest concern is Javi Baez, and I'm not a Javi Baez hater. He's a Met legend, right? We love Javi Baez here.
Yeah, Met Legend.
Traded Pete Crow Armstrong for Javi Baez, by the way. Can you believe that? That's a topic for next pod. We're gonna get into that trade a little bit, but yeah, no, I'm glad Javi Baez is having the resurgence trade a little bit, but he don't deserve it, man. Like there's just so many other options. I saw a whole TikTok comparing his stats to other outfielders in the league, and some that I remember off the top of my head is Julio Rodriguez, who is having a down year, but is having a much better season than Javier Baez. I think Wilyer Abreu is another one who is not a big name guy, which is why he didn't get voted, but he's having a much better year than Baez. There's just so many other people I think that deserved that starting outfield spot. And I'm not really trying to hate on Javi. I think it's just really just benefited from the fan vote. Fans love Javi. They're seeing he's having a good year. They gave him the outfield spot. So that's that. And Tigers, 3 starters, which is crazy. They're having a great year. Honestly, will probably win the World Series this year. I don't know. That'd be cool for them.
One of the
But
best teams in baseball,
exactly
honestly.
one of honestly the best team in baseball, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. It really
One
could be.
one fun thing though I would say before we go to the next topic, I guess, is I think we're finally in an era now where the National League lineup is better than the American League. I think it's always been the AL has been so dominant and has always just been dominating the All-Star game for year after year after year. Now we're at the point where I think it's the NL's time to shine. If the NL doesn't win, I will be surprised. I mean, it's probably going to be Screwball on the mound. It's probably going to be Skeens on the mound, but like they're only going to pitch like 1 inning. So like who really cares at that point? It's just the lineups are, I don't want to say completely unbalanced, but there's definitely a talent difference there. And I definitely think the NL is going to take it. And, it's a new era for baseball. It's a new era for baseball where the National League is arguably, actually, not even arguably, I think wholeheartedly they are the harder league now. So that's going to be fun. Cannot wait for this All-Star game. Hopefully Aaron Judge can provide me, a very sad Yankee fan, with some enjoyment. Hopefully. But I think without further ado, we can go on to the final topic of the day. Zach,
Yep.
this is your
Um,
guy.
well, I mean, Kershaw, I mean,
You have
just
him in fantasy, or you had him in fantasy a lot, I
I
think.
did. I did have him in fantasy a lot. But just to get into it, Kershaw hit his 3,000 mark for strikeouts.
Good job,
Really,
Kershaw.
there's not really too much to say about this. It's just I'm really happy for him. Good job for Kershaw. And I think now he actually got what he wanted. He got his final sun day in the sun moment, and now he's probably going to look at retirement after this year. I mean, he's only on a 1 year deal with the Dodgers, and he just keeps doing, it seems like he just keeps doing the 1 year deal until he got to this mark. He's already won so many rings with the Dodgers, especially just came off a ring last year. I feel like now he's more so feel like he's fulfilled. Like his MLB career has been accomplished. Like he is 100% okay with ending his career now that he's got the 3,000 mark, but as if he wasn't a sure ballot Hall of Famer before. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame regardless. I there's no doubt in my mind, but he joins only a few pitchers to achieve this, tough goal. Um, two other pitchers that come to mind are CC Sabathia and who just got inducted. And then it is also Max Scherzer, who's still in the league as well. So couple of old geezers, but they got what they got, and they got 3,000. So good for Kershaw. I'm really happy that he got to share that moment with his kids, especially in the locker room afterwards. And if you saw all the afterwards, the aftermath of what happened, he got the mound, which was a really cool thing. He even got a trading card too with his logo,
Hmm.
um, put in as a patch, and it has the 3,000 K mark. So yeah, really, really good for Kershaw. I'm happy that he finally got his moment, and now he's probably gonna look more so towards retirement now. But Deej, what do you got to say on Kershaw's 3,000 strikeout?
Yeah, I mean, Kershaw joins a legendary, group of pitchers now, and as Zach said, he might honestly be riding off into the sunset. We might not see Kershaw pitch again, but he's been getting older, and his run prevention since 2020 has still been absolutely insane. Just his career accolades, like, obviously World Series champion, MVP as a pitcher. We don't really see that anymore. Maybe Screwball might be the closest we get to that. 3-time Cy Young, like 10-time All, like he's just so good. And I see a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of stat heads, not even putting him into the conversation for one of the best pitchers of all time. More so, like people want to say he's the best pitcher of all time, and I don't know stats like that, so I'm not gonna even entertain that debate right now. But I think him officially getting 3,000, 100% going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, unanimous. Like there's he's probably not going to be unanimous because there's always going to be one stupid voter that's going to screw it up for everyone. But Kershaw, man, he's still good. I think he can still, um, benefit the Dodgers in some way. Maybe not in the postseason because he always crumbles in the postseason. But it's still awesome to see a legend, of this era and this generation do what he's doing and joining, like you said, Verlander and Scherzer as the only current day pitchers to achieve that goal. It's sad because you know I remember considering a guy like Max Scherzer and Verlander as the best pitchers in baseball, and now they don't have that title anymore. They're just getting up there in age, and even Kershaw, for the longest time, was the best pitcher in baseball, and now is getting up there in age. So it's sad to see these legends kind of age out, but that's what the new generation's for. That's what Paul Skeens is for. That's what Screwball's for. That's what Max Fried is for. That's what all these pitchers are for. And you get to leave a legacy. You get to leave your legacy behind, but new people get to create new legacies. And maybe Max Fried's the next Clayton Kershaw. Who knows? Max Fried's going to win the next 10 Cy Young for the Yankees, and then we're going to be totally fine. We'll have a new conversation about Max Fried in a couple of years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but I'm
know,
happy for Kershaw.
good for
He's a great
Kersh.
guy.
Good for
Great guy.
Kersh.
Good for Kersh.
Yeah, super happy for him.
Yeah.
Well deserved. But who knows? He may shock us all and sign yet another 1 year deal with the Dodgers this offseason. Who knows? Who really knows? It could be like a LeBron scenario where if he's ending or if he feels like he's still got more in the tank, he'll still go. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Clayton Kershaw, but we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind him pitching in the league again next year, and who knows? Maybe if they do sign him to another 1 year deal, they could potentially give him a lesser role and maybe slide him for the bullpen for a
Who
little bit.
knows? Who
I don't know
knows?
how good that would work. And I don't know how willing he would be to transition to the bullpen or anything like that. But you know, he's getting up there in age, just like you said, with all the other pitchers, Verlander and Scherzer. It's coming to a point now where we're gonna start losing, some of the guys that we grew up watching and that we saw for the past decade or so play. It's gonna happen. They're gonna age out, and that's kind of what's happening with Verlander, Scherzer, and Kershaw. But it is what it is.
It is what it
We'll
is.
see what happens with Kersh at the end of the year. But with that being said, that wraps up episode 61 of the Do You Know Ball podcast, and we will catch you guys next time for episode 62.